Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitinamani Namaste Saraswati Deve Guruvani Pucharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Desatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sridvaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, thank you, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada, Patita Pavane Ki Jai, Shri Gaur Nitai Ki Jai, Gaur Premanandi, Hari Bol. Today we are celebrating the combined Vyasa Puja celebration for 4 of our August gurus. His Holiness Bhakti Vikasa Maharaj and Radhanath Swami Maharaj, Hanumatpresaka Maharaj, and Romapada Swami Maharaj. And it's a great and humbling honor for me to speak about them. I know them all very intimately, and they're all sincere and dedicated servants of Srila Prabhupada, Guru Maharaj. They've all dedicated their lives to pleasing Prabhupada by offering sincere service, especially preaching unabashedly throughout the world, and even the most remote places, to spread the message of Lord Krishna, or Krishna Upadesh, and without any prejudice to caste or any material designation, because they have spiritual vision. And that spiritual vision is explained in Bhagavad Gita, 4th chapter, 35th verse, Yajgyat-vana punar mohan evan yasyasi pandava yena bhutani drakshasi atmani atomayi. Lord Krishna tells Arjuna, after explaining the absolute necessity of accepting a bona fide spiritual master, tatvidi paripatena paripasnena sevaya upadeksyami te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master, inquire from him submissively, and render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you, because the self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. So then the next verse, Yajgyat-vana punar mohan evam yasyasi pandava yena bhutani sesani drakshase atmani atomayi. Having obtained real knowledge from a self-realized soul or spiritual master, you will never fall again into such illusion. What is the illusion? Thinking that I am this body, and everything in relationship with this body is mine, and therefore my purpose in life is to make money and spend that money on myself and my family and my relatives for sense gratification. For by this knowledge you will see that all living beings are but part of the Supreme, or in other words, that they are mine. So Krishna is saying, basically here, that everyone, all living entities, not only human beings, but the aquatics, the insects, and the birds, and the reptiles, and the plants, and the mammals, and the human beings, all the way from the asuras all the way up to the demigods, they're all expansions of Krishna. We are all part and parcel of the Lord. Mamayavam sa Jiva Bhuta, Jivaloka, Sanatana. We are eternal parts and parcels. That means that originally we were all with God, or Krishna, but by bad choices, we decided to separate ourselves and come to the material world to try and be a little God ourselves. So Krishna is saying that if one receives real knowledge from a self-realized soul, at that time, one realizes that my real identity, that my eternal identity is as part and parcel of the Lord. Or in another way, it's said, a constituent part and parcel of the Lord. That's who we really are. This family that we're born into now is a temporary thing. But the eternal relationship that we have is with Krishna. And therefore, if we can become free of the illusion of this material world based on bodily conception of life, and the way to do that is by regularly hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, spoken by genuine devotees in a systematic way, then the results of receiving knowledge from a self-realized soul, or one who knows things as they are, is learning that all living beings are parts and parcels of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. This is who we really are. This is our real identity. This is our real constitutional position, to be subordinate to the Lord and always fixing our mind on pleasing the Lord through acts of devotion. That's who we really are. We're not white, black, or yellow, or brown, or whatever, because the body is only a temporary covering of the soul. And we know it's temporary because it's constantly changing, and then the ultimate change is at the moment of death. So devotees who have been fortunate enough to meet a bona fide spiritual master like Srila Prabhupada and the acharyas that we are honoring today are no longer bewildered. And therefore, Lord Shri Krishna explains that the sense of existence separate from God or Krishna is called Maya. Ma means not, and Ya means this. Something that we have nothing to do with Krishna, that Krishna is only a great historical personality, and that the Absolute is the impersonal Brahman. Factually, as it is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, this impersonal Brahman is the personal effulgence of Lord Krishna. Krishna, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the cause of everything. In the Brahma Samhita, it's clearly stated that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes. Even the millions of incarnations are only his different expansions. Similarly, the living entities are also expansions of Krishna. The Mayavadi philosophers wrongly think that Krishna loses his own separate existence in his many expansions. This thought is material in nature. We have experienced in the material world that a thing, when fragmentally distributed, loses its own original identity. But the Mayavadi philosophers fail to understand that absolute means that 1 plus 1 equals 1, and 1 minus 1 is equal to 1. This is the case in the absolute spiritual world. So, Om Purnam Ada Purnam Idam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnam Adaya Purnam Eva Visishyate. The Supreme Lord, Krishna, is perfect and complete. And everything that emanates from him also is perfect and complete. And even though infinite unities, perfect and complete, are emanating from the Lord, still he remains perfect and complete. He's not diminished in any way. So obviously, if we entertain a material concept of Krishna, we remain an atheist. If we accept the explanation of Krishna by himself and great devotees like Brahma, Lord Brahma himself, the first created living being, or Narada Muni, Brahma's direct disciple, or Vyasa Deva, Narada Muni's direct disciple, then if we accept their words, their explanations, and their realizations, then we become enlightened. They are all our gurus, and Krishna is the original guru. So the only problem we have is lacking sufficient knowledge in the science of understanding Krishna. And because of that, we're covered with many different layers of illusory thoughts. We come from monkeys. The purpose of life is to enjoy sex and money and different gadgets and cars and airplanes and all these things. And we surround ourselves with fruitless labor because at the moment of death, we don't know what's going to happen next. So many people just develop the hope, and it's only a hope, that there's nothing after death. There's no responsibility to any supreme being. You just die and that's it. But that's not a fact. So therefore, people are unnecessarily suffering in this life due to ignorance. So for want of sufficient knowledge in the absolute science, people are covered with the illusion, and they think that they are separate from Krishna. They're not related to God in any way. So this can be remedied. In fact, there's a very nice verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st canto, 1st chapter, 13th verse. And in the purport, well, the verse is spoken by the sages of Naimisharanya to Sutta Goswami, and they say, "We are eager, O Sutta Goswami, to learn about the personality of Godhead and his incarnations. Please explain to us those teachings imparted by previous masters or acharyas, for one is uplifted both by speaking them and by hearing them." So that's what we do in this temple every day. We speak about Krishna, and people hear about Krishna. That's not what's happening on the radio or the television. Most of the time, they're speaking about politics, sports, how to make more money, and so forth. And people are, instead of becoming purified, they become contaminated by misconceptions about what is the purpose of life. So the conditions for hearing the transcendental message of the Absolute Truth, or Bhagavad Gita spoken by Krishna, are set forth herein. The first condition is that the audience must be very sincere and eager to hear. And the speaker must be in the line of disciplic succession from the recognized acharyas. For one is uplifted both by speaking them and by hearing them. So the person who speaks is enlightened, and the person who hears is enlightened in such an audience. The transcendental message of the Absolute is not understandable by those who are materially absorbed. Under the direction of a bona fide spiritual master, one becomes gradually purified. Therefore, one must be in the chain of disciplic succession and learn the spiritual art of submissive hearing. This is an art form, submissive hearing. So, today, people are listening to so many different subjects: how to flip houses and make money, how to make money on the stock market, how to make money by buying bitcoins, and so many different strategies to do that. It's all nonsense. It's all a waste of time. It's all a fruitless activity. We have to first realize what are the real problems of life. The real problems of life are birth, old age, disease, and death. Those are the real problems of life. And therefore, our purpose in life should be to find a solution to these problems. You're not going to find a solution to health care. You're not going to find a solution to the debt of the United States. You're not going to find a solution to so many things. But you can find a solution to these essential problems that concern every one of us: birth, death, old age, and disease. And the beginning of the wisdom by which we can become free of this vicious cycle called the cycle of samsara is to understand that this body is simply a temporary covering of our eternal soul. The eternal soul in the body is who we really are. And we're bewildered by the body. First of all, we cannot say, I am this body, although everybody says that, because the next question would be, which body are you talking about? Are you talking about the body you had? Are you talking about that little fish that was swimming and came from your father to your mother and joined with an ovum? That little fish who was you, is microscopic. You can't even see it with the bare eye. You need a microscope to see it. Would you deny that that was you? Was there anyone who would dare to deny that that was you originally? I don't think so. And then once it conjugated with the ovum, which supplies the ingredients to grow a body, but all the knowledge, all the data to build the body was in that little fish called a sperm, which is microscopic. And once they connect, then the growth begins. And it's a complicated growth. There's nothing that man has ever made which is as complicated as the human body. The human body has thousands, sometimes millions of functions that are all synchronated and are working in sync perfectly. So when that little baby comes out of the womb of the mother, it has everything inherent in it to grow into an adult. And it started from a little fish called a sperm that carried all the data to make that body into what it is when it comes out as a little baby, with head and legs and arms and intestinal tract and blood and plasma and ligaments and bones and tendons and veins and all these things that are complicated. And the eye, which is an extremely complicated instrument, optical instrument. We don't think about these things because we're so preoccupied with eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. But those 4 activities are activities of animals. To distinguish ourselves from being an animal, we have to engage in the research of Atma Tattva. What is the nature of the soul? What is my relationship with God, and how can I build that relationship? And that's built up by devotional service. So, the pure devotees of the Lord who become spiritual masters and spiritual mentors, they are more powerful than the waters of the sacred river Ganges. They can purify a person who's willing to listen to regular discourses by such persons. One can derive spiritual benefit out of prolonged use of the Ganges water, but one can be sanctified at once by the mercy of a pure devotee of the Lord. This is a fact. Just like we are celebrating today the four acharyas. And we've already heard other people speak. Some of them, they're disciples, some of them initiated by them, or some others who accept them as shiksha gurus, teachers. Simply a little bit of association with such people, and one becomes purified of the illusion that I am this body. This is the number one illusion that people are under. And the body extends itself in the form of family, and the form of ethnic group, in the form of a nation, and people get caught up in this network of false identifications, and with each false identifications there are false responsibilities, and with each false responsibility there are years and years of wasted human endeavor. And at the moment of death, we realized, wait a minute, I wasted my whole life. I don't know what's going to happen right now to me. I'm going to die, and I don't know what's going to happen. my only hope is, I hope nothing happens. I hope when I die there's nothing, but that's not a fact. So you see the dilemma that people are in, that are wasting their time eating, sleeping, and mating like animals, and not using or not trying to achieve the real human potential. And Narada Muni once said, the great sages who had imparted scientific knowledge of transcendence to me departed for other places, and I had to pass my life in this way. So Narada Muni was just a little boy, but at that time he associated with great devotees for a short period of time, and that influenced the rest of his life. And in his next life he became Narada Muni, the most famous saintly person in the universe. And he's also the guru of Vyasa Deva, who is an incarnation of Krishna, and he wrote all the Vedas. So we see from the humble beginning as the son of a single parent, his mother, he didn't know who his father was, and she was very poor. But because of his great fortune to associate with pure devotees for a short period of time, 4 months, he became totally enlightened, and he became, in his next life, the greatest sage that's ever existed in the universe. So he was basically impregnated with spiritual knowledge by the grace of these great sages. There were 4 of them. And there was a tangible change in his life. That's what happens when one is initiated by a bona fide guru. There's a tangible change in their life. Just like many people have come to this temple in the past, and by associating with the devotees in this temple and hearing acharyas like the 4 that we're honoring today, it changed their life significantly. I know one devotee, before he had any contact with this temple, his great pride and joy was his wine cellar in his house. And anybody that came to visit him, the main attraction was the wine cellar. He would take him downstairs and show him his collection of expensive wines. But once he started associating with the devotees here, guess what? He decided to throw away all that expensive wine. And he had collected over a number of years, because he had a very good job and a very good salary, I would say maybe $30,000 worth of wine in his cellar. And he threw it away. He didn't even give it away. He threw it away. So we see that when you approach a bona fide spiritual master and you're willing to hear and take advice from such a person, then there is a tangible change in one's life. And this is an important symptom that's visible after initiation by a bona fide spiritual master. Actual association of devotees brings about a quick change in the life for spiritual realization. And how that happens is described. It says, that the spiritual master will give knowledge to the disciple of how to organize his daily routine. So it is take rest early, wake up early, at least 1.5 hours before sunrise, and take a bath and begin to chant your the prescribed number of rounds, and also come to Mangal Arati in the temple if you live close enough. If not, you have an Arati ceremony in your own house, and you chant minimum 16 good rounds in the morning time, early morning time, and then hear Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam spoken by a genuine devotee. And there's so many genuine devotees now online teaching every day this Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. And then offer some simple food, breakfast, to Krishna and your Guru, to your Guru and to Krishna, and then respect the remnants, and now you're ready to face the world. You go out earn a living honestly, but your activity, your main interest is to please Guru and Krishna. That is a formula for success. And if we inherit this formula for success, then everything you do in your life will be successful. Because success means you remain steady in devotional service. And through devotional service, you build up your relationship with Krishna. And when Krishna sees your sincerity, he promises to protect you. Protect you, protect your family, protect your relatives. You can't do it on your own, but if Krishna is on your side, you can do it. And then Krishna promises. He says, Sarva dharman prityaja mam ekam saranam brajaham tvam sarva papepyo moksisami ma suchaha. He says, just give up all your fabricated dharmas, surrender unto me only. And if you do this, I promise you that I'll free you from all your previous karma. Therefore, you have nothing to fear and nothing to hesitate for. So this is the ultimate message of Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, so that we can develop the daily practices that endear us to Krishna. Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyajimam namaskuru mami vaishyasi satyam te pratijane priyosime. Krishna says, always think of me, manmana bhakta, become my devotee. Madhyaji, worship me. Mamana bhakta madbhakto madhyajimam namaskuru. Offer your praise and your homage to me. If you do this, I promise you that you will come back to me because you become very dear to me. So this endearment to Krishna is the symbol of a devotee's success, when he actually develops affection and love for the Lord and shows it through constant acts of devotion to the Lord and being very steady in devotional service. That's the real sign of spiritual advancement. Steadiness and regularity in performing devotional service. So, it says in the first canto, 5th chapter, 38th verse, thus he, or the devotee candidate, is the actual seer who worships in the form of transcendental sound representation, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, who has no material form. So, Srila Prabhupada explains, our present senses are all made of material elements, and therefore they are imperfect in realizing the transcendental form of Lord Vishnu, or Krishna. He is therefore worshipped by sound representation via the transcendental method of chanting. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We worship Krishna through the sound representation of the Lord, which is non-different from him. Nama Chintamani Krishna's Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purnat Sudhanitya Mukto Vinatvam Namanamino. That this name, Krishna, and Krishna himself are non-different, because the Lord is absolute. That means that anything in relationship to the Lord is also absolute, such as his holy name, such as his holy Dhamma or place, such as his holy pastimes, the Rasa Lila and his relationship with his devotees. All these things are holy because he's absolute. And therefore, the sound vibration of his name and his transcendental activities puts us directly in contact with Krishna. Prabhupada writes, our present senses are all made of material elements, and therefore they are imperfect in realizing the transcendental form of the Lord. He is therefore worshipped by sound representation via the transcendental method of chanting. Anything which is beyond the scope of experience by our imperfect senses can be realized fully by the sound representation. A person transmitting sound from a far distant place can be factually experienced. If this is materially possible, why not spiritually? This experience is not a vague, impersonal experience. It is actually an experience of the transcendental personality of Godhead, who possesses the pure form of eternity, bliss, and knowledge. The transcendental form of eternity, bliss, and knowledge can be experienced by our original spiritual senses, which can be revived by chanting of the holy mantras or the transcendental sound representations of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Such sound should be received from the transparent agency of the bona fide spiritual master, and the chanting may be practiced by the direction of the spiritual master. That will gradually lead us nearer to the Lord. This method of worship is recommended in the Pancharatrika system, which is both recognized and authorized. The Pancharatrika system has the most authorized codes for transcendental devotional service. Without the help of such codes, one cannot approach the Lord, certainly not by dry philosophical speculation. The Pancharatrika system is both practical and suitable for this age of quarrel. The Pancharatra is more important than the Vedanta for this modern age. So we see that the book written by Narada Muni, the Pancharatra, is more important than the Vedanta Sutra, because it gives direct knowledge of who is Krishna and how to connect always with Krishna through devotional service, and especially by chanting the holy mantra, Hare Krishna. So, this is extremely important. Now, Narada Muni is, of course, the guru of Srila Vyasadeva. And Srila Vyasadeva said, "All you have said about me is perfectly correct. Despite all this, I am not pacified. I therefore question you about the root cause of my dissatisfaction. For you are a man of unlimited knowledge due to your being the offspring of one Brahma, who is self-born, without mundane father and mother." Yeah, Brahman is born as the mental child of Lord Krishna. So, we see here in the material world that everyone is engrossed in the idea of identifying with the material body or mind as the self. As such, all knowledge disseminated in the material world is related either to the body or with the mind, and that is the root cause of all despondencies. Now, how many people are despondent today? Many. In fact, most of the population is despondent because there's always some overriding problem. Many of those problems are artificially created in order to exploit people, and some are genuinely real also, like the earthquakes and the windstorms and the tidal waves and the flooding and the earthquakes and the viruses and war and political upheaval and the threat of losing a job and the threat of losing your home. All these things are real. And because of that, people become despondent. That's why so many pharmaceutical companies make psychologically altering drugs to help people forget their despondency. But it doesn't change anything. It doesn't heal their despondency. They just forget about it for a short while under the influence of the drug. But here, the Srimad Bhagavatam has a definitive cure for all misery and despondency. And that cure has two components to it. One is the diet, and the other is knowledge. So the diet is Mahaprasadam, food, vegetarian food offered with love and devotion to the Lord, and then the Lord returns the favor by giving that food back as his prasadam, or his sanctified food. And by eating such sanctified food, one becomes purified. So, this is a simple method. Anyone can do this. But no one will do it because they don't believe in God. They believe in matter only. They don't have any authorized or bona fide knowledge of who Krishna is. They have no inkling of the power and glory of the Lord, because they don't listen. They just walk in and walk out. But listening to the words of transcendental knowledge, such as Bhagavad Gita, which was spoken originally by Krishna himself. So who knows God better than God himself? If you want to know anything about God, you must hear Bhagavad Gita spoken by a genuine devotee. And then the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is spoken about Krishna by the greatest sages of ancient India. Sukadeva Goswami, Sutta Goswami, Sonaka Rishi, Narada Muni himself, Vyasa Deva himself, Lord Brahma himself, and so many great acharyas, the Alvars and the Vaishnava acharyas in North India, the Alvars in South India, and so forth. These people have spent many years in painstaking effort preserving this transcendental Vedic knowledge so that everyone has a chance, regardless of their caste, regardless of their economic position, regardless whether they're literate or illiterate, everyone has a chance to chant Hare Krishna, accept Mahaprasadam, have darshan of the deities, and hear this transcendental knowledge that is liberating from the whole cycle of birth and death. That's a solution to all problems of life. And one becomes, instead of being despondent, they become transcendentally happy, because knowledge is freedom. Knowledge is liberating. Genuine knowledge, not phony knowledge like how to flip houses and buy and sell cars and deal on the stock market. That knowledge is not liberating. That knowledge is entangling. But the knowledge of how to engage in the devotional service of the Lord and build up a significant and consequent relationship with the Lord, that is liberating, because you're no longer dealing with asat. You're dealing with sat, or transcendental Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, so we'll stop right there. We want to thank our 4 acharyas today, and being able to say kind words about them and the whole process of Krishna consciousness enlivens people and gives them hope and aspiration that they too can make spiritual progress. They too can elevate their consciousness in spite of all the different problems in this world. They too have a genuine right to be happy and eternally blessed and liberated from the cycle of birth and death. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.